Animating this wiggly circle was one of the most difficult and most technical pieces of animation I've ever done. The whole thing took 5 days, 13 seconds. That may sound pretty slow, but by stop motion standards, it's actually not so bad. Sure, we animated 10 seconds a day on Robot Chicken, but at Laika, they probably get less than 5 seconds a week. But why though? Does Kubo look that much better than Robot? 10 seconds a day versus 1 second a day. Is Kubo 10 times the quality of Robot Chicken? Dude, yes. Look at that, it's way better. Maybe not 10 times better. It's difficult to mathematically quantify the quality of creative type stuff. This isn't chemistry, we're not cooking meth.
Purity of 96%.
But yeah, dude, I give mine a solid 7. This has gotta be a 10, right? Or at least like as close to a 10 as like a human being is ever gonna achieve.
Now back to me.
5 days, 13 seconds. What was I doing that whole time? Luckily, Dragon Frame saves the metadata per each frame taken, so we have perfect information regarding what frame took what length of time. Some frames took longer than others. Why? What makes certain things harder than others? Well, today I'm gonna take you through it all, right here on YouTube in my new series called Why So Long? Okay, so this first day doesn't look like much. We got from frame 1 through frame 52. Let's see what that looks like. That's day 1, everybody. I didn't really have much of a plan. I didn't really know what this project was going to turn into. I was still just kind of fumbling around, figuring out what I wanted this to be. I didn't know it was going to be an O. I was just thinking, oh, let's animate a cool circle. I took the first frame, March 20th at 4:40 p.m. That's because I was doing other shit up until then. Called it a day at 9, so a nice 4-hour session. I take the first real frame at 4:52. Then between 52 and 53, this takes 1 minute. This frame took 1 minute. This was 1 minute. This is a 1 minute frame. This probably took less than a minute. Then another thing that probably took less than a minute, and it looks like at frame 12, we go back in time 5 minutes from 4:53 to 4:48. Which is definitely not true. What I think happened here was I started at frame 13. Frame 13 was the first frame that I took. Then I animated a couple more frames up to 20, and then decided I need to put some frames in front of that. So I went back and added these 3 frames, and now we get a nice entrance to it, as I felt like I really wanted this to happen very slowly. So between here and here, that took 7 minutes. May not look like much. And this is 9 minutes. Every bit of the clay had to move, so I'm touching lots of things. And you know, 9 minutes may seem like a long time, but it's actually really not that long a time. Everybody always talks about how life is really short, but it's also really long. 9 minutes is not very long. You can spend 9 minutes on a frame, that's fine. Now we start to get, like, these are taking 10 minutes a frame. So like these frames here are taking about 10 minutes. Makes sense. I mean, I love what I'm doing with the tails kind of breaking up. I think that's really cool. And then it gets all like jagged here. I think that was a nice choice. Then it seems we get 40 to 41 took 2 hours. That definitely didn't actually take me 2 hours to do. This probably took 10, 20 minutes. I probably went off and like took a meal, and then like, I don't know, watched some TV and probably got distracted. I don't really remember, but that sounds like something I would do. 20 minutes for the next frame, then another 10-minute frame. Yeah, that all makes sense. So let's see day 1 again. Day 1. That's it. Let's see day 2. That's day 2. That's it. That's all I did on the second day. Bruh. Now, I remember exactly what happened day 2. You'll see I took the first frame day 2, March 21st, at 2:39 p.m. I actually started working at 11. So I sat down on day 2, and looked at what I did on day 1 and decided, you know, I actually don't like the last 20 frames that I shot. So I cut back to like here. I felt like this needed to enter faster, and I didn't like how this guy kind of hung there. It's like it gets up and then it stays there and then it goes. I wanted it to feel like it went pew, like it's just like one kind of move. I felt like that might look stronger. I cut back 20 frames and I animated that again. And I looked at that footage that I just shot and decided that looks worse. I don't like that. I threw those 3 hours of work in the garbage and started off exactly where I was supposed to start off.
Nice.
Very funny. So that was just 3 hours in the tubes, but that ain't much if you're trying to do really good stuff. So day 2, I only shot 18 frames. But they do look very good. I'm very happy with these frames. I like how globby it all feels, I think. You know, I really don't like how this guy comes up, how this part right here, watch this part. It kind of goes up and then stays there and then gets unnaturally pulled to the right. I don't love that. And that's what I cut back to fix. But I didn't fix it. I made it worse. So, you know, forget about that. Then this splash here was a real wake-up call. This was really tricky to do. Because it's just... like, it's not easy to get these gradients. Like, you have to really smear it, like, all weird. It's hard to do. So that's definitely where a lot of the time went. And if you look really closely here, you'll notice little circles in there. Oh, it's like little circle imprints, like these on these kind of frames here. And that's because I'm actually using a pencil eraser to poke the clay down to get it to a gradient. I wasn't able to get my finger in there because it was doing too much. It was doing too much damage. It wasn't precise enough. I didn't have a better tool than a pencil eraser. I used a pencil eraser because I'm a fucking crazy person. So that's about it for day 2. Not much. I'm kind of inventing techniques for the drips here. I think that looks pretty good, but I get a little crazier in the future with them. All right, day 3 looks pretty good. Day 3 is a pretty good day. March 22nd. Looks like we got a whole bunch of frames today. All right, let's take a look at day 3. Nice. That's a good chunk of time. Let's see. We started at 11 a.m., pretty late start. I'm not much of a morning guy. No, that's not true. I'm a morning guy if I'm getting paid lots of money to be a morning guy. Then I suddenly become a morning guy. I find my brain does better work between like 10 a.m. and like 8 p.m. I think that's a pretty good length of time for me versus like the 7 a.m. to like 5 formula that we see in like school. Like that's probably one of the reasons why it was so hard for me in school, because I was fucking getting up too early. So yeah, we started at 11. Looks like we actually rolled over a little past midnight. So this is what we got for day 3. You can see I'm starting to figure out how to do this. Or I'm starting to figure out kind of what I wanted this project to be. I think either day 3 or day 4, I realized that I wanted the circle to be an O in the word boner. I didn't want that at the beginning. At the beginning, it was just, let's just animate a cool circle until I get bored. But then it was like, oh, let's turn it into something. Let's turn it into a boner. You see, I'm starting to get really globby with it. You see, this drip right here is where I start to get really creative. Like, we start to descend, and then this mark here, this that's me with, there's like a line of clay. Then I'm just taking my finger and I'm just kind of smearing it back and forth, and you get this really interesting mark. And I decided, oh, that's what the drips are going to look like. That's what the drips are going to look like. So between 102 and 103, how long am I spending? 15 minutes. Yeah, that's probably about what you're looking at for a lot of this stuff is 15, 20-minute frames. Probably 30 minutes for when stuff gets more elaborate. Because all this stuff is still really pretty simple. Like nothing too crazy has happened yet. I mean, this splash down I remember taking a while. Let's see how long that actually took. Yeah, that was 35 minutes between here and there. That's 35 minutes. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, 30 minutes is probably what you're looking at for like really good animation. As far as 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 stop motion goes, you're probably looking at 20 to 30 minutes a frame. Now, granted, I don't consider this animation to be a 10 out of 10. It's probably closer to a 9. As far as my individual skill level goes, I can't bump it up to a 10 because it's on 2s. And so there's just half as many frames as there could be. But would it look twice as good if there were twice as many frames? I decided no, it wouldn't, so I didn't do it. And it's not like suddenly people would start hiring me if I did twice as much work on the Boner Project. It's not like Arby's or like Pepsi would suddenly be like, oh yeah, Dan, make us a cool thing. Dude, Dan, make us some Dan, make us some shit. And it's like, dude, no, they don't care. So, so f them. Yeah, we can't go giving out 10s willy-nilly. We got to keep them valuable. Yeah, I remember at the time I was really struggling with this move there. It's where the big gloop here hits the other big gloop, where this guy and this guy kind of smash into each other. That I remember took a minute to kind of figure out. I think I took some frames and then cut back even. And here you can really see the little circles that I'm punching in with the pencil eraser to kind of make the gradient a little more light. Yeah, this splash was definitely really tricky. Oftentimes, the secret to having a big move is having it turn into a bunch of little moves. This splash here, it goes from like, you know, we're going from like pretty big to like not there. So like the secret to having it go from being there to suddenly not being there is there's still a little bit of it. Next frame, we get a little bit of it, and then it gives the audience something to follow. So it's like we go from something really big to something really small, but that the audience can look at. Look at this dot here. Yeah, that's like as precise as I can really get working at this scale. And then I'm starting to get really thick, like paint. Like these kind of marks right here, I really love those. That was a ton of fun on this project. Then going from a frame like here to like there, I think is really cool. It still feels so jagged and like unpredictable and like kind of gross, but like organic, but like gross organic. Like shitty organic. I love that. I love that look. Oh yeah, there were some really tricky things with day 4. Day 4, March 23rd. Yeah, that's some really tricky stuff. Now we're starting to get really tricky here. So let's see how long these frames are taking. We got 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Some of them a little bit longer, of course. I remember really struggling with these couple frames here, where we get like the triple, the 1, 2, 3 along the, you know, we get a nice droop. We get the 1, 2, 3, these shapes that roll in on themselves. I remember I started doing that, and then I got a couple frames later, and I was just thinking like, damn, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I trying so hard? This doesn't matter. Nobody cares, but I do. I care very deeply, actually. That's my tragic flaw, in fact, is I care too much. Then I'm able to sneak in this little droop up. See how this guy travels upward? You know, we're like there, and then we're like up a little bit, and then we're like kind of in there, and then we're kind of pushed out again, and then we're kind of back there, and you know, and it's sweet. This move I really like. I really like this. It's really glitchy feeling thing here. Like these frames are really neat. They feel like TV static, and the whole image gets very glitchy all at the same time. I think that was something I did really nicely. And of course the times reflect it here. Let's see. Yeah, we're spending 15 minutes, and then we're spending an hour and a half. I probably went off and did some other bullshit. I ended up with something that I do like, but in the end I do feel like it could have been more exaggerated. I feel like it could have been like where I had it just like it was like but it could have been like it could have been more. It's fine the way it is. Keep in mind we're only at 5 seconds so far. 6 seconds in 4 days. That's pretty nuts. It looks like I ended out day 4 by working pretty late, working till midnight. That's typically par for the course for me if I'm not answering to anybody, and if it's just me and my own, I find I do a better job when I don't leave. So March 24th, I'm able to get most of the frames done. This whole thing was 13 seconds. I was able to get 7 seconds on the last day. Let's see it. And that's how you're able to do it. Everything is really simple. By this point, I had decided that the other letters are going to be appearing around it, and I don't want it to be the center of attention. I don't want to do anything too crazy. So aside from when it turns into a skull for a split second here, how long am I spending on these skull frames? Yeah, 15 minutes is pretty much what you're kind of looking at, average. Some of them less. This one, 20 minutes. But yeah, I love like this look here, these couple frames here, starting from here to like there. Very nice. I especially love this frame here. I love these marks down here. Here at 191. The frame that only took 13 minutes. Because at this point, not only was I deciding that I wanted things to ramp down, but I'd also figured out how to animate in this style. I'd figured out what I want stuff to look like, how I want things to move. I developed all these little muscle memory techniques. This here, like where you get this like black, these like thick black outlines to this beautiful stain interior. I think that's really magnificent. The transition between these two frames, like it feels like a watercolor. It feels like a spaceman spiff landscape, like a Bill Watterson landscape. Of course, his was more representational and more strongly rendered, of course. Mine's just a little smear of on the wall. His is like an actual landscape. It's beautiful. A lot of this, you're looking at not a lot of time between frames. Like you're looking at like 5-minute frames, which if you're going to shoot 7 seconds in a day, that's probably what you're going to be looking at is 5 minutes between frames. This frame here bugged me a lot in the moment. I really hated this move here because that's Homer's mouth. Like that's just Homer's mouth. That's clearly Homer's mouth. That's clearly so in the moment I was thinking like, oh man, it's gonna look so bad, but it was like that's the only way I was able to get to this mark up here and then have a nice fade out there, and then it splashes into a bunch of different bits here. And one final drip to seal the deal. You know, it comes down and then it breaks off into either direction. It's a good decision. Now I do regret how this animation ends. I regret how it ends. I should have had it just turn into a perfect circle. But instead I had it turn into like a circle with a little bit of a droop. And I think the final frame would have been a lot stronger. The final like boner look would have been stronger. Damn shame. Maybe next time. Closing thoughts here. Yeah, if you're doing like the type of animation where there's like a lot of stuff going on, you know, frames like these here are gonna take you 30 minutes to do. Starting like here, these are gonna take you like 10 minutes to do. And then frames like here, these are gonna take you like 5 minutes. Anytime you got the big splash in there, it's gonna take longer. Yeah, all in all, I think this came out very nice. I think it's coming in at a solid 9 for my own ability. In the grand scheme, it's probably an 8. Like, if we're taking into account all animation that's ever been animated, this piece is probably an 8. But as far as my own individual skill level goes, I definitely felt like I found a greater sensitivity along it, and I'm excited to do more stuff like this in the future. All right, so that'll do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to unfollow, unsubscribe, don't leave any comments, and, you know, take a big